The Oppressor MK2 is widely known, at least in my eyes, as the most popular money-grinding vehicle in the game. It's not only great because it has defensive capabilities, offensive capabilities, but it can be spawned next to you in a couple seconds, it's very fast, and it gets the job done 90% of the time. But I also believe that to be the case for the Sparrow. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing the Sparrow to the Oppressor MK2. We're going to be going head-to-head to see just which of these two vehicles is actually better at not only saving time for money grinding, but as well for getting the job done. Let's get straight into it. To figure out which of these two vehicles is better, I have devised 5 different categories. The first we have is cost. The second one we're going to be breaking into is ease of access. This is going to be how fast it is to spawn in the Sparrow versus the Oppressor and how fast it is to get into the air. Number 3 we have is speed. Number 4 we have weaponry. Which of these two vehicles carries better weapons for offensive capabilities, clearing whatever is in front of you. And number 5 we have is countermeasures. How much can these vehicles withstand against gunfire, and obviously, do they have any defensive capabilities against missiles and homing rockets, things like that. So let's start off with the cost factor. We got the Oppressor MK2, which, I'll be real, we already know loses the cost war. The Oppressor MK2 is an $8 million purchase currently, just to get your hands on this vehicle. Even with completing some of the missions to get it cheaper, it's still going to cost you at minimum $6 million. But that's also forgetting you need to own a terabyte to upgrade this vehicle, which is another $2 million. Plus you need to put money on this vehicle to upgrade it, so probably another $500,000 there. So in total, I would be willing to say to get your hands on a fully upgraded Oppressor MK2, it's going to cost you around, we'll say $8.5 million to $10 million. That is insanely expensive. If we compare that to the Sparrow, yeah, obviously the Sparrow is going to be a heck of a lot cheaper. While the Sparrow is cheaper, to be fair, it still does cost a pretty decent chunk of money to get your hands on. First of all, you're going to have to get a Kosatka to even store this vehicle. That's a $2.2 million price tag right there. However, to be fair, with the Kosatka, you also do unlock the ability to get the Cayo Perico heist, which is obviously going to earn you that money back instantly. So I'm not really sure if we're going to consider that $2.2 million in the evaluation of getting the Sparrow. If you do, or you don't, it's still going to cost you $2.2 million to get your hands on the Kosatka to store it. Then it's going to be an additional $1.7 million to actually purchase the Sparrow, add on the upgrades, and it's probably going to be another, we'll say $400,000. So round it up, we'll say $2.1 million for the Sparrow and $2.2 million for the Kosatka. So yeah, around $4.5 million to own a fully kitted out Sparrow. To be fair, it's not nearly as expensive. And as I said, the Kosatka obviously earns you money, where the Oppressor doesn't. It's just a vehicle, and the Terabyte just gets you the vehicle's opportunity to get. You can't even really say the Terabyte has the Terminal Command Center, because the Arcade has the Master Control Center, which is just better in my opinion. So at that point, the Sparrow easily wins the cost war. Now we arrive at ease of access, which both of these vehicles are honestly incredibly easy to spawn in. To get your Oppressor MK2, you're going to go to Register as a Boss, Motorcycle Club President, start up a motorcycle club, and you can literally scroll through the motorcycles you own to request it right next to you. As you can see, literally, the Oppressor just spawns on the road next to me, and just like that, I have my Oppressor MK2. This vehicle also contains a speed boost, which means you can get into the air within seconds of climbing on it. So the Oppressor MK2, incredibly easy to get your hands on once you own it. Now, I do have to say there is a bit of a downside, and that is the cooldown. If we make our way back to the ground, we do have to wait a bit of time when returning our vehicle back to the garage before we can call it back, a 5-minute cooldown. Now, there are ways to get this cooldown shorter, but still, it's a pretty decent amount of time you're going to have to wait. What a lot of people end up doing is purchasing 2 or even 3 Oppressors, which at that point, yeah, that's really, really expensive. To request your Sparrow, you're going to go into the interaction menu, scroll to Services, Kosatka, and request Vehicle Sparrow. as you're going to notice, it's just like the Oppressor, spawns instantly right in front of me. Now, obviously, as a helicopter, it is going to take you a decent chunk of time to get it into the air. It's not, like, a lot of time. You can see that was, what, like 5 seconds after getting into it? So it's still very easy to get into the Sparrow and get it into the air. But flying at max speed and getting up to max speed, obviously the Oppressor, especially with the rocket boost, is going to be much quicker in acceleration. Now let's say for some reason you are stranded at the top of Mount Chiliad and you have no way of getting down. If you wanted to call in your Oppressor Mark II, well, you can't. And this is going to be the case for really any area that isn't near a road. You're not going to be able to call in your Oppressor. However, if we go to Services and we go to Kosatka, we can instantly call in our Sparrow, and as you can see, it literally spawns right in front of us. Now, to be fair, it is sliding down the mountain a bit, but that's still not going to stop me. All I need to do is run over to the Sparrow, and my character's obviously going to hop in it, and we can literally leave as fast as we want. So I'm gonna give ease of access to the Sparrow. Like, sure, it's a little bit slower to get into the air and get up to top speed, which is a slight advantage for the Oppressor Mark II. But the fact that you can literally call in the Sparrow wherever you want, whenever you want, is a massive benefit. Also, the fact that you don't have to pay any fees when your Sparrow blows up, and it automatically restocks it, so you never have to call MMI to get it back, is just so much easier. Now let's talk about speed and overall maneuverability. Starting off, we have the Oppressor Mark II, which does feature a speed boost allowing it to instantly accelerate up to its top speed. Now the only way to rejuvenate the speed boost is literally by stopping the vehicle or using brakes, so you really only get to use it once. But with the handbrake glitch, which you can see here, it's not really a glitch, you just hold the handbrake, the Oppressor can fly at 130 miles per hour, which is actually pretty fast. And not only that, but the Oppressor can turn on a dime, instantly accelerating once again back up to its top speed. Because of this, the Oppressor is incredibly maneuverable. This vehicle can also very easily fit through little holes and things like, you know, towers and stuff that you obviously could not do with a Sparrow. Another thing which you've noticed is that we can crash the Oppressor Mark II and not die. That is something that's very, very nice about the Oppressor. Doesn't even make sense because it is a motorcycle. But yeah, if we were to crash into a pylon or any pole just like we did there, we would instantly blow up. And even though, sure, we fell off the Oppressor Mark II, it's obviously not even close to the same thing. I would say the biggest advantage of maneuverability and speed the Oppressor has is the fact that it can also be used as a ground vehicle. You can see here that we can drive the vehicle essentially. It's hovering, but it means that if we're doing any missions where we need to fit our vehicle into small little corridors or anything that involves being on the ground, picking up an item, and then hopping back into the air very quickly, that is where the Oppressor is definitely going to excel. The main thing the Sparrow has going for it is speed. Most specifically, top speed. The Sparrow can achieve a top speed of 168.75 miles per hour, which is a whopping 38 or 37 miles per hour faster than the Oppressor Mark II. So it does have some advantages. If you're going at long distances, let's say you're in the city and you need to make it all the way over to Sandy Shores or maybe even over to Grapeseed to complete a mission, this is obviously where the Sparrow is going to have a bit of an advantage. The Sparrow does accelerate pretty fast. We're already upwards of 140 miles per hour, and as you can see, it just keeps going faster and faster. 150 miles per hour, still accelerating. We're about to break the 160 now. So yeah, the Sparrow is a fairly fast vehicle when it comes to being helicopters, and even though it doesn't turn as fast as the Oppressor, it is still a very maneuverable helicopter at that. So I'm definitely going to award the Oppressor Mark II the points for this category, but I'm not going to say the Sparrow's bad at all. It's still plenty maneuverable, and you're only going to arrive at your position probably 5 or 6 seconds later than you would in the Oppressor Mark II. And even then, any of the missions that you can't fit into the little corridors on, you can always just go into your interaction menu and spawn in your Oppressor as it is next to you. Now we arrive to a very important category for probably a lot of you, which is the weaponry. Does the Sparrow or Oppressor Mark II feature better weapons? Well, I'm going to be real, the Sparrow is just flat better in every way when it comes to the weapons. For example, the missiles on the Sparrow are exactly the same homing range, speed, and tracking capabilities when it comes to the Oppressor Mark IIs. They're the exact same missiles, and that is because the Oppressors were nerfed. So with that in mind, the Oppressor has an limited amount of missiles. I think it holds 20 or so missiles. The Sparrow has an unlimited amount of missiles. And that right there is really the only thing I need to say. The Sparrow can just keep shooting over and over and over. You never need to despawn the vehicle, call a new one out. You just constantly spam your missiles over and over. Because of this, the Sparrow gets an instant win when it comes to weaponry. Also, when it comes to survivability, the Sparrow once again does get the win, at least in my books, when it comes to missile survivability. For example, the Sparrow features flares, and these flares can be fired as fast as you want. So you can see here, I'm just shooting them over and over. Anybody in a jet or an aircraft trying to shoot at your Sparrow will have a very hard time actually taking it out with the flares, giving you usually enough time to launch the flares and then do what I do, which is jump out of the Sparrow. The Sparrow is obviously not going to be very good when it comes to explosive machine guns, which a lot of the new jets have, like the Raiju or obviously the B-11 Strike Force, but the bigger problem with the Sparrow is explosive weaponry. For example, the explosive sniper, or even deadlier, the newly added railgun. This thing is an instantaneous explosion, and it'll knock you out of the sky pretty fast. To be fair, the Oppressor MK2 also is pretty easy to take out with the railgun, but it's a much smaller target. Because the Oppressor MK2 is a much smaller target, it means that for ground vehicles, it's very hard to take the Oppressor out. Add that into the fact that the Oppressor is also much more maneuverable than the Sparrow. It means that you can easily dodge missiles. Plus, you do have flares, you just have about triple the cooldown on using these flares compared to the Sparrow. You can see I'm still pressing the flares, still pressing them, there you go. So it's like 15 seconds of waiting before you can launch them again compared to like the normal 4 or 5 seconds it is for the Sparrow. When it comes to countermeasures, I would say that I still like the Sparrow more because of the fact it does shoot flares faster. A lot of people just go the lazy way and try to shoot missiles at you. They don't pull out the railgun or the explosive sniper. And the explosive sniper cannot blow the Sparrow up for one explosion. It takes 3 explosive bolts to actually take out the aircraft. So because of that, you can just jump off of the Sparrow and you should be completely fine. You're not going to have to worry about being killed. The Oppressor is very similar, but the Oppressor you'll actually get knocked off from any explosive rounds that hit it, which will instantly kill you. So that kind of sucks, I guess. Overall, I personally would say at the end of today's video that the Sparrow wins. It is easier to spawn in. The reason countermeasures really don't matter in the grand scheme of things all too much is because of the fact a lot of people are like me in solo lobbies doing their grinding. And because of that, you don't really need that many countermeasures. You don't need to survive missiles, you don't need to worry about people using explosive bolts or anything to blow you up, because let's be real, if you're grinding like me as a solo player, you're not going to have to worry ever about these things happening. So the countermeasures category really isn't that big one, on my opinion. The other one's quite important: weapons, speed, ease of access, and cost. So going over the categories, cost obviously goes to the Sparrow. Ease of access, as we said, goes to the Sparrow. Speed goes back and forth. I would say overall that the Oppressor wins the speed category just because the Sparrow only has top speed going for it. And weapons goes back to the Sparrow. Personally, I believe the Sparrow is indeed a better vehicle to use. It's not only easier to call in, literally just scrolling through services, Kosatka, and calling it in instantly next to you, but as I said, there is no restocking fee. If this vehicle gets blown up in 2 minutes, you can just call it back out instantly. It's just that easy. You can call it in wherever you want, whenever you want. It has an unlimited amount of missiles, and the fact that you have flares is just an additional bonus. The Sparrow is an absolutely amazing beast of an aircraft, and as much as I like the Oppressor MK2, I just don't use it that much. I'm always going to the Sparrow over the Oppressor. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Do you like the Sparrow or the Oppressor MK2 more? My guess is a lot of you still like the Oppressor, but I can tell you, as a hardcore money grinder myself, I have been using the Sparrow more and more in Grand Theft Auto Online. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.